So with that, we should move into it. Please excuse my clumsy delivery. The movie is Babylon. So Babylon is a large-scale Hollywood epic. It is 3 hours 10 minutes from director Damien Chazelle, who directed Whiplash, La La Land, First Man with Ryan Gosling playing Neil Armstrong just a few years ago. He kind of took, I think he intended to kind of take a year off after that, but then the pandemic happened, so he ended up taking a couple years off, and now he's returning to cinemas with Babylon. This is a Hollywood epic in every sense of the word. It follows a handful of different figures in the Hollywood industry, a young starlet, an aspiring waiter, an old soul, a musician who's on the come up, a great actor. It follows this group of characters in the kind of rise and fall and subsequent rise again of Hollywood's tumultuous 1920s and 1930s when they made the leap from silent films to talkies, right? Films with sound, and then on into the 50s. Babylon covers a large swath of time, and it covers a good handful of characters with a bunch of subplots. At times, it is winding and messy. At other times, it's surprisingly thoughtful and I think really profound. The film stars Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, Diego Calva, a bit of a newcomer. Excited to see him on screen. Gosh, I need to look up IMDb for everybody else, but that's what's going on in Babylon. Andy, what'd you think?
Well, I went into this pretty skeptical. Again, the trailer wasn't telling me what it was about. It reminded me a lot of The Wolf of Wall Street. There were jokes of Twice Upon a Time in Hollywood because it kind of has a similar kind of feel to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Quentin Tarantino's movie. But I ended up really, really liking this, getting on board. It's about the passion for movie making. It reminds me a lot of Hail Caesar, where it's about both the good and the bad and the ugly of filmmaking, and it's about the rising of stars, the falling of other stars, I was telling Zach the paradoxical nature of Hollywood, where Hollywood is both fleeting, where stars come up and gets chewed up and spit out in a matter of years, but how Hollywood is also eternal, and the films will last as long as we do, and how we're going to be making movies until Kingdom Come. And it's really it's about that, and our kind of two main characters trying to make it in this brand new world. And it's just it's a crazy adventure, and it's man, I really enjoyed it. Love the soundtrack, good jazz tunes all throughout. Gets a little long in the third act, but I really enjoyed it. I was really surprised.
Yeah, I actually really liked it too. It's one of those. Babylon's a great example of a movie that's sitting around a 50 on Rotten, and people may think, "Oh, that must be a bad movie." No, 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 no. That's not how Rotten works. 50 means it's divisive. People either really like it or they really don't. And when I saw early reviews for Babylon, that seemed to be the case. Some people were saying Chazelle's totally missed the mark. He took too much time. He needs to go back to something smaller budget. He has wasted our time with this feature. And I saw other people saying, "My God, the man's done it again. Like, it's brilliant. It's better than his last movie. It might be his best." Like, he's combined features of every one of his films. The passion in the craftsmanship from Whiplash, and the excitement of the Hollywood epic from La La Land, and like a surprising bit of history from First Man, all come together in Babylon to create like this picture of Hollywood that is hilariously debaucherous, I should say. Hollywood in the 1920s, the roaring 20s it is depicted mostly in the form of like small sets built out in a big dusty field in the canyon, where crews are running around with film cameras and actors and extras trying to organize like shooting 10 different features on one lot using the sunlight, because that was just how they were doing movies. To like debaucherous parties. There's a better word for it, but I don't know if I can say it without getting content ID on Facebook. Giant parties where actors and actresses are doing all kinds of horrible things to one another. If you're watching us on a Facebook live stream, if you've seen the poster, the trailers, you'll see a kind of like warmly lit party scene with tons of hands and people in masks. That's what I'm talking about, and it is like this huge party right at the open of the film that's met with these like huge sweeping camera shots from right out of La La Land. Great work from Chazelle and his team to bring us into like this wild world where our characters live. And the movie gets you on this roller coaster and keeps you on it fully through the first act. And then it does start to slow down because it is 3 hours and 9 minutes, which might be a little
It's as long as Avatar.
It is. It is as long as Avatar, yes, which is crazy.
That's funny. Let's get into our plot a little bit and our characters. So our two kind of main characters. Our main character is Manny Torres, played by Diego Calva, who has done a lot of, I think, Spanish language film and TV. We meet Manny trying to deliver an elephant to this crazy party, and he kind of weasels his way in there to just be like, he's just a yes man. He's gonna get something done. You need something, you need this guy taken somewhere, you need someone driven home. Like, he's just kind of there, and he loves movies and he loves the movie industry, and he's trying to break in. And we also meet at this crazy party Margot Robbie's character, Nellie Leroy, who is just like this New Jersey girl. She's got attitude, she's on fire. She kind of just barges her way into this crazy party, and through happenstance and a series of events, they both take a step foot into the industry. Her as this brand new starlet, and him as the kind of a junior production assistant executive. And we kind of follow both their journeys. And we also meet some established characters. Brad Pitt playing the fabled Jack Conrad, who's a star of silent film. He's got a ton of money, ton of renown. He's a mover and a shaker in Hollywood, living the high life. And then also we meet Jean Smart's character, who plays Eleanor St. John, kind of Hollywood reporter, gossip columnist, who's there as well. These are our kind of main characters that we're going to be following throughout the movie.
Yeah, I like this duality of, not duality so much, but this like element of cycles in this movie. We kind of have like this rise of this excitement in the 20s with like the booming of the industry, and there's so much money in Hollywood, and like the people could not be in a better place there. And then this like turn into sound, which is a great turn right around the second act, when Brad Pitt's character Jack Conrad sends Manny Torres to go watch a movie with sound in it.
That's
Al
right.
Jolson's the jazz singer, yeah, and Manny goes to see it in a theater, and you get this wonderful scene in this giant theater with all these people, tons of extras. The scope in Babylon is not to be. We got to mention that on this show.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe how much is going on in this movie. But he goes and sees this movie, and then he calls up Brad Pitt and says, everything's about to change. Everything's going to change. And it does. And suddenly this Hollywood that these characters are all used to and like and enjoy, and they find magic in, is turned into like a very sterile, on sets, everybody quiet because the mics are on, in hilarious fashion, bright lights that are torching people, and camera rigs that are so hot people are having heart attacks, and just like capturing all of the chaos of movie making, but also highlighting like these tremendously profound moments when like you get the shot and the scene works and every puzzle piece falls into place, and you have this like amazing moment of like magic in the universe when you finally capture that fabled scene, the sunlight you needed to, Jack Conrad giving the big kiss. Like, it's fantastic. And I like the way this movie seems to be able to handle that and compartmentalize it. And on the one hand, praise filmmaking for the magic and like the creativity that it is, but also like skewer the industry and the way things are done, both on set and off, in professionalism and in party mode, which there's a lot of in Babylon.
Yeah, everyone is kind of disposable. Nellie Leroy gets her big break because another actress becomes indisposed, and she shows up and she can do it all. And there's an incredible scene of the director asking her to, well, I need you to cry again. Wait it through your left eye only. Wait for the camera, and it's just like she can just do it all, and she does it like take after take after take, changing up, and but it's just like you can be replaced at any second, and that means you can get a chance at any second. I remember listening to an interview with Margot Robbie where she said they had something like 700 extras at one point for some of these scenes, and it was just like, she was like, you don't see stuff like that anymore. They just don't do it.
Yeah, and like that's part of what makes like this journey our characters are going on so captivating to watch in a theater, because they're in the business of making film, right? And like what you're watching when you see Babylon is a film in a theater, and at times characters reference the idea of the screen, right? And seeing each other on film reels years after after the film is made, you know, after somebody might have died, being able to see them again on screen and kind of be immortalized in that fashion. Like Babylon has a lot to say about the history of filmmaking and the history of Hollywood, and in its good and bad moments, right? Like in its best times, you get the dreamers finding success, Margot Robbie landing a role, or Diego Calva's character like getting a promotion from a studio exec at Kinescope, a fictional studio, which in the film in which all of these events pretty much take place. But at other moments, you get like the horrifically ugly side of Hollywood. You can see that in the trailer with Tobey Maguire's character, the seedy face paint man, like who's got these yellow teeth.
Yeah,
It's
the
looking,
gangster stuff, the gambling,
yeah,
the
right.
drugs,
Who
the
takes our characters to
debauchery.
the seedy underbelly of Hollywood. And I like the way that Babylon manages to pass all of these characters through time across this journey of Hollywood changing, and then the fallout after that, and what happens to the old as the new come in. But manage to hang on to that bit of like, hey, there's a lot of like twisted up, raw, disgusting emotion under everything that's happening here, because making movies is really hard. And I like that it manages to kind of say that while also giving us like a relatively great looking feature. Man, this movie looks so good. And the soundtrack, oh my God, the soundtrack to Babylon is great, man. It's really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I forgot. I don't know where his character is in. Oh, Sydney. No, there's a trumpet player who is also a
Sidney Palmer
character.
is the name of the character. I know. I was just looking him
Okay,
up on
yeah.
IMDb. Yeah, yeah.
Jovan Adepo, who I believe is actually playing the trumpet here. If not, he's very convincing. He's a big part of that because he's part of this jazz combo that's at these parties and eventually is in a lot of the films as well. And eventually they turn the cameras on the band, and there's some of these jazz films that were part of the early talkies, and we see kind of a rise and fall of that character as well. That's what's interesting. Usually this movie would be like just about stardom and the rise, or it would be kind of Stars Born, where some people are rising while others are falling. This we see lots of rises and falls in the same movie, and where Nellie Leroy becomes a star overnight. As soon as talking films happen, she kind of has to adjust and has to kind of reinvent her character. She's just kind of this down and dirty New Jersey girl, and they have to try and dress her up, teach her to be polite and have etiquette and know how to rub elbows with the elite, and it just doesn't work out. But you see a lot of these characters having to make adjustments and fight to survive in this ever-changing Hollywood thing.
Um, for Babylon, I've heard people say it's a historical drama, and it kind of is. It's a fictionalized historical drama. Like I mentioned, Kinescope, the studio where all of these actors and most of the business in Babylon is happening, did not ever exist. But MGM, which very much did exist, is mentioned in this feature, and like is talked about at one point. Like you do see things from other parts of Hollywood that I think were pretty accurate, pretty real, even if it's not quite as like bright and shiny as Chazelle makes it look here. Additionally, our characters are mostly based on real people. It turns out originally Margot Robbie's role was going to be set for Emma Stone, but she couldn't do it after the pandemic due to scheduling differences. So they rewrote her character to be a little less like her original inspiration, an actress named Clara Bow, who I've been learning about since I watched this movie, who basically has exactly Margot Robbie's story in this movie to a fault. It's pretty much exactly what she's got going on. Additionally, Jack Crawford, Brad Pitt's character, is based on a couple of old bright and shiny actors from back in the day. And I like this movie's ability to like look back at Hollywood from the now. Like as we move through time, like things start to feel a little bit more relevant. Like at one point you hear Singing in the Rain, and you're thinking in your head as you're watching this film in 2023, like, oh, okay, I know what that is. Like I get that, but the characters in the film obviously don't. And you get to kind of enjoy this like I don't know, voyeurism that like I don't see in a lot of features from a different side of Hollywood. There's that great scene, like Andy said, when Manny's character is talking to Sydney at a shoot, and Manny says, "What do you think of the shot?" And Sydney says, "I think you got the camera pointed the wrong direction." And what Sydney's saying is to point it at the musicians. That's where the real story is. But in a way, like that's exactly what Chazelle is saying. Like, I don't want to look at the screen. I want to look at like what's going on in front of it and behind it, and like how these things are made. And I think Babylon does a really great job of threading that needle while also giving us a pretty captivating narrative for each of our characters. It is a little winding. It does have some pacing issues, admittedly. I still think 3 hours, 90 minutes is too long. But if
Yeah.
it had been 90, it would have been too short. So it does use the time pretty well, I think.
Yeah, the like the first act is fairly short. It's actually only about a half hour, and that's all the party. Like there's only a couple giant parties, and the opening one is the very first, and that's when you get the the title card is at kind of the end of that first big party, and then the second act is pretty long, and as the third act. But some of the stuff again, it's about the pain, the blood, sweat, and tears of movie making, and the kind of passion for that. And I think that's part of what really grabbed me.
Yeah, and I think that translates to the movie itself. Like lots of really long takes, lots of really intricate camera moves through lots of extras, big direction, big music, big performances. I think Babylon might be super good. And it's weird. It's weird that it's so divisive. Like I really need to go back and read some of these reviews from people who didn't like it because I get that it's different. It's not quite mainstream. It's definitely different, but like it's what do you call it? It's a movie for movie makers, and like in that way, I think it's really special. It's like Andy said, like there's two kinds of people that go to the theater. There's people who go every 3 times a year, and there's people who go 3 times a month. And for the 3 times a month people, like this is really special. Like I think it's something really cool. But I don't know about the people who go 3 times a year. They might hate Babylon.
I really wish that things like this and the whale, which we'll talk about later, would just come out earlier than year in the year. We get so many we get railroaded with like 10 movies, 10 prestige films in the last 6 weeks of the year, and it would be like this would have been played great in the fall or in the summer.
Yeah.
I think a different time of year when it's not up against Avatar. I know it's counter programming, but you're never gonna go win with like a hard R Hollywood epic versus a PG-13 take the whole family film.
It is weird that this comes from the same studio that put out Top Gun Maverick, right? Paramount, like, because that is such a huge runaway success. Oh my God, they had it in theaters for 3 months, and that movie had like insane shooting direction. Like I can't imagine. I don't know how much they spent on it, but like some of those shots, getting fighter pilot shots and checking the weather so they know where the
26
sun was. They
cameras.
get the light. Insane. Yeah, like insane production to put that together, and it's been huge. And then Babylon obviously doesn't cost as much, but is still this really big scope idea, and just like totally deflates at the box office. Like it's just a stark difference, I think, coming out of the same place this year. But I don't know, that it's neither here nor there. The point is, I think Babylon might be worth watching. Andy, any more thoughts or recommendations?
I'm ready.
Andy, would you recommend Babylon?
I would. It might be challenging for some, and there's definitely some content warnings, but it's really this phenomenal trip down memory lane and looking back on how things were as opposed to how Hollywood likes to remember itself. The first 2 acts are just really solid and incredible fun, great performances by our leads Diego Calva and the great Margot Robbie, of course, along with Brad Pitt. It's a lot of fun. I've been playing the soundtrack on loop. I can't get enough of it. It's definitely one of the best.
Super good.
It's definitely one of the best films of the year, and it's a shame it just came out so late and that hardly anyone's going to see it. And if you're going, like, it definitely is something that needs to be seen in the theater. I might try and get another screening of it in just to see it one last time before it leaves.
I'm in the same boat. I think Babylon's great. I don't think it's for everybody. I can confidently say that. And not everybody's gonna like this movie. My parents would not like it. I could say that for sure. It's a hard R. Yeah, big content warning. I think Babylon's really special, and I think Babylon will be on lists in the future of like special movies that nobody really paid attention to, or movies about Hollywood that like are underrated. You know, like I think Babylon will come back around. When I saw First Man, I thought, oh, Damien Chazelle's made a little bit of a misstep here. It's good, but it's not great. And coming out of Whiplash and La La Land, I had felt that way, and I feel really good about saying I think our man is back, baby. Like Babylon's good stuff, and I in a way I love that it's. I mean, I don't love that it's underperforming, but like considering what Babylon, all that Babylon has to say about the industry, I think it's almost a special thing that like it spent so much money and is doing so poorly.
Yeah.
It's meta commentary on how things work is fantastic, and like in a way, I think if you've seen the film, especially in theaters, like you kind of get in on that joke a little bit more, and that's not a bad thing. I also want to try to see it again.
Like I said, it's a little worrying that a bunch of high quality prestige films came out in the last 6 weeks or so, and almost none of them, they're basically all bombing, which is really worrying for the future. It's like people won't see small and mid-budget films in the theater, and you can't, like Avatar's doing great, but you can't survive just on that.
No, yeah, it's good. You got to have something. If it's not word of mouth or something exciting to like get people out front. I think Babylon's got big scale, and I think it's got a great cast, but like I just think it had this problem in its marketing where it was like they did a thing like Amsterdam, where they're like, we're not really going to tell you what's going on in this movie. It's just zany, and there's a lot of people you like, and like it looks pretty good, right? Like the cinematography looks good, but like you got to give us more
Margot
than
Robbie
that.
for 2.
Yeah, oh, God, dude, don't get me started. She's gonna. Okay, first off, Margot Robbie's great in Babylon, and secondly, she's gonna be great in Barbie. So hopefully she will get her due. She'll get her day. I don't know. We'll see.